By default, when measuring, the units displayed are the units defined in the workspace, but sometimes you want to measure in something other than what is defined by default. So with this update, when measuring, you'll see a new option to change the units. In the past, the maximum distance measurement only appeared when specific geometry was selected. But with this update, you can now choose max distance from the measure dialog and select any geometry that you would like. Onshape has always had the N key as the keyboard shortcut for rotating normal to, but by default, when rotating normal to a view, Onshape chooses the closest normal direction. But sometimes you want the opposite, so with this update, if you click N a second time, it will flip the normal view. In this update, if you're working with a document that is in a folder, you will see that folder's name shown in the document toolbar. If you left-click the folder name in the document toolbar, it will open that folder in a new browser tab. With this update, you can now scale sketches using the Transform tool. Simply select Transform, select the sketch geometry that you want to scale, and drag the scale arrow to scale. If you want to scale by a specific amount, simply type that value in. There have been significant improvements made to showing curvature in this update. The first improvement to mention is showing curvature is now more persistent, meaning you can add dimensions, even exit the sketch, and the curvature will still be visible. This is especially important when you want to make small changes to dimensions or other dependent features and see the impact of those changes on the curvature immediately. In the past, this required turning curvature off and coming back to it after you've made your changes. This back and forth is no longer necessary. The second change to mention is Show Curvature now remembers your previous selections. So if you're consistently looking at the curvature of the same entities over and over again, you no longer have to select them over and over again. The last change to mention is the new keyboard shortcut. If you hit Shift-C on the keyboard, it will show curvature for all entities in that sketch. The quality of sketch tessellation has improved dramatically with this update. This will be most noticeable for those that work a lot with splines and large arcs. In the past, sketch tessellation quality was more coarse, and at high zoom levels, it meant certain sketch geometry would appear to deviate from geometry it was actually constrained to. But with these improvements, that is no longer the case. The rectangle feature has always been defined with either horizontal or vertical constraints. Meaning if you wanted a rectangle that was not horizontal and vertical, you would have to create the rectangle, delete its constraints, then rotate, or sketch it line by line. So to make this easier, we now have a new aligned rectangle feature in the sketch toolbar. To create an aligned rectangle, simply select it from the toolbar and left-click to place the 3 points on the rectangle. When making changes to a large part studio with a number of features, it can be difficult to understand which features are dependent on the feature you're changing, and vice versa. To solve this problem, we've added an option to show dependencies when right-clicking a sketch or feature. Simply right-click the sketch or feature, choose Show Dependencies, and the Dependencies dialog will appear. The Dependencies dialog will show any dependencies the feature has above that feature in the dialog, and the features that are dependent on that feature below it in the dialog. The Show IsoCurves option in the Fill command is a useful tool for understanding the quality of the surface being generated. It was so popular in the Fill command, we received many requests to include it in the Loft feature as well. So, with this update, you will see a new option in the Loft feature to show IsoCurves. Thickening a surface is often one of the last steps of a surface model, and as a result, it is common to want to remove the underlying surface after a thicken because it's no longer needed. So with this update, we've made that the default behavior. When defining a thicken, the underlying surface will be deleted unless you check the new option to Keep Tools. In the past, when creating features that had either solid or surface options, Onshape would consistently default to solid. Meaning if you're creating multiple back-to-back surfaces, you would have to click Surface in the dialog each and every time. With this update, Onshape now remembers the last selection you made and makes that the default for subsequent features. In the past, when inserting parts into the assembly, you had to navigate to the folder that you wanted to insert from every single time you inserted. This meant if you were consistently inserting from the same folder, you had to navigate to that folder over and over again. With this update, that is no longer the case. Onshape remembers the last location you inserted from and will now default to that location every time you insert. Many features including plane, fillet, chamfer, boolean, delete face, and more will now remember critical previous selections made and make those the default for subsequent features. This means if you're consistently checking certain options or setting certain parameters, Onshape will now remember those and make them the default for the future. Onshape's simultaneous bill of materials is a great place to manage and interact with the metadata associated with your assembly, but sometimes the bill of materials you work with in the assembly isn't what you want to see in the drawing. So with this update, you can now choose a different BOM template when inserting a BOM table into a drawing. Occasionally there is a need to manually change a dimensions value in the drawing. By default, these dimensions that have been altered appear underlined in the drawing. But if you want to remove these lines, you will find a new option in the drawing properties under Dimension for Underline Overridden Dimensions. Unchecking this will remove the line below altered dimensions. Earlier this year, we added the ability to customize the style of hatch displayed in your drawing, with the promise that more hatch styles would be coming. Well, those new hatch options are here. Now, when editing hatch, you will see new options at the top for ANSI, ISO, and General. Here you can choose your standard and pattern from a list of standard hatches.
Thanks for watching. Click the logo to subscribe or see some of our other videos linked here.